This video will be about David Michael Sahakian, prisoner number 54744-097. His claim to fame with me is that he is the guy who told me that if the government executes any Aryan Brotherhood men, that they would kill 10 of us in retaliation. I have no doubt that this was not an idle threat. I've worked around him and the rest of the AB leadership for well over a decade by the time he made this promise. I won't call it a threat. It was a promise. I was a guard at USP Marion for over 23 years. I never did anything else but be a guard the whole time I worked at Marion. In other places, I've been, a street cop, detective, soldier, Coast Guardsman. In total, I have almost 32 years of government service. While you hear about Sahakian, keep this in mind. The feds are going to put him back on the street in less than 7 years. But don't worry, I'm sure he's been fully rehabilitated, and he'll pose no further threat to the community. Just hope he don't move to your part of town. The ABs have a top leadership called the Commission. It was usually 2 or 3 men. The Commission appointed a group of assistants or advisors known as a council. Sahakian was appointed to the federal council by Barry Mills, prisoner number 14559-116, and Tyler Bingham, prisoner number 03325-091, sometime in 1993. Cleo Roy, prisoner number 39321-066, and Wayne K. Bridgewater, prisoner number 20220-148, was on the council with Sahakian. The AB councilman, Cleo Roy, has less than 3 years to serve in prison, so you can look forward to him, in your hometown soon. Cleo killed a cop on the East Coast in 1976. The officer was only 25 years old with a pregnant wife and a 3-year-old daughter. He shot the man dead when the neighbors called the cops because Roy was blasting his music too loud at a house party. While I was being interviewed and selected to work at USP Marion, Roy murdered a fellow prisoner, Thomas Larry Lamb, prisoner number 78245-012, on the 15th of October 1988. He's been released from his federal sentence and is awaiting parole in New Hampshire. I hear he's doing very well and is expected to be released. Seems life for killing a cop would not keep you in prison, and maybe butchering another inmate would. How about being a leader of the most violent prison gang in America? Well, the public believes that anyone can change and should be given another chance. In 2005, he was convicted of racketeering for his activities with the ABs. He also was given 5 years for making a knife in prison. But he says he's reformed now, and I have no doubt he'll convince the parole board he's ready to come out of prison. His lawyer is very confident that will happen. Here's a photo of Roy just after he shot the cop dead with a rifle. Another councilman with Sahakian was Wayne K. Bridgewater. He's another hardcore AB. On the 28th of August 1997, he viciously murdered a man at USP Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, for the crime of being black. He attempted to kill another black man, but by a miracle, the guy escaped death. Despite what others will tell you, and some changes in the organization, they are primarily a racist group. Being a minority and assaulting a member is a death penalty offense. Bridgewater is currently at the ADX to prevent him from killing again. It's my opinion that the only reason that the Aryan Brotherhood is not nearly as well known in the community is that the average people have no opportunity of interacting with them. All the drugs, robberies, killings, and prostitution the mafia does is reported on the 6 o'clock news. Kill a few prison guards, pimp out some prisoners, sell some, a bunch of drugs in prison, and nobody hears about it. I don't know about the other prison systems in America, but I can tell you that the BOP keeps its mouth shut. We do all we can to cover up anything that happens behind the wire. Remember the nationwide coverage of the 2 prison riots at USP Marion? Right. I never heard of it either. But I was at both of them. If you don't hear about that, you can imagine what the other stuff is that you don't hear about. I was asked about Alcatraz. It was closed because it was expensive and high profile. It was in full view of a major American city. USP Marion, its ancestor, is hidden in the woods. The ADX is a windswept, frozen hell. Out of sight and out of mind is just what the government is attempting to keep prison and prison gangs and crime. Unless you're involved in some way, you hear very little of what's going on. Now, back to Councilman Sahakian. Some of the duties of the council was to make recommendations to the commission on membership. For example, Richard Scott McIntosh, prisoner number 02012-028, was recommended for murdering a black man at Marion that we guards called the Zulu Warrior. Terry Lamar Walker was his real name, prisoner number 43549-019. He was brutally stabbed to death in front of the guards. I plan on doing a video on the inmate and his murder in a later episode. It is common practice to be given membership in the ABs only after you kill for the organization. It is also common to leave the group only when you're dead. There's no such thing as a retired AB. The closest you get to retired is on the run from the ABs. When the men trying to make parole say that they have left the brand, behind, I know they're lying. No doubt. The ABs have a long reach. Break the rules, and there's no place to hide. Jimmy Lee Inman, prisoner number 54377-097, thought he could beat the ABs. He moved from the California system to the federal one. The ABs in California have their own faction, run by a separate commission and a council. What he forgot about, or maybe didn't know about, was that the California councilman Robert Lee Griffin, federal prisoner number 03211-016, had a contact with Sahakian. Griffin, in prison since 1970, was a confirmed member of the ABs since 1979. And, he's claimed he's retired and should be released from California's Supermax prison in Del Norte County, Pelican Bay. In 1970, my cousin was a track star in Del Norte County. Griffin was just starting his prison career. Sahakian and Griffin agreed that nobody should be out of reach. So they struck up an agreement. If either commission authorizes a murder, the other faction will help carry it out. Now, I'm not saying it was done overnight. No. The ABs are a patient lot, like a cat staring at a mouse hole, waiting for the mouse to stick his head out. It took a couple of years. They sent an assassin, Lawrence Clacker, to do the job. When he failed, it could have made the federal faction look bad. So the head of the organization, Barry Mills, took charge. He ordered Kurt King, prisoner number 40863-066, to get the job done. It was the kind of order a mafia don gives to a trusted soldier. On the 30th of September, 1993, King stabbed Inman multiple times. Only problem was Inman was tougher than expected, and he pulled through. Inman was released to the streets in 2000. No idea where he went, but I'd keep a low profile if I was him. The ABs are not known for forgetting a debt or forgiving a past offense. I have no idea what made Inman think he could get away scot-free. Because way back in 1986, the same duo of Sahakian and Griffin had put out a hit on another guy, Joel Burkett, prisoner number 90742-011, for giving information to prison authorities about the locations of weapons hidden at Folsom State Prison in Represa, California. The California faction made the request. It was approved by Barry Mills, the most vicious man I ever met. John Greshner, prisoner number 02550-135, passed the order on to the assassin, Lawrence Clacker. Yes, the same guy who botched the later killing of Inman. It took him till the 1st of March 1992. Clacker did his best and stabbed the shit out of Burkett, but he failed to cooperate and he refused to die. It might sound like the ABs are a bit incompetent, but you can be assured that any ordinary person would have died in these 2 assassination attempts. I've seen inmates live through stuff that would have been certain death for anybody else. The saying among the guards is that the thugs are like cockroaches. You just can't kill them. I sincerely hope there has been a mistake, and this part about Greshner is not true, but it seems he's in a residential re-entry program. That's government speak, for they're getting ready to let him out. After all, he's old and gotten all reformed and stuff. Just ask him. He'll tell you he's all better now. Who says a life sentence has to take the rest of your life to serve anyway? What idiot thinks a prisoner doing life will die in prison? In September of 1995, Sahakian and his pal, Michael Patrick McElhaney, prisoner number 04198-097, were in the hole in USP Leavenworth, Kansas. As an aside, when McElhaney was in USP Marion, he was a nobody when we were a level 6 Supermax. But when our mission changed, he became Big Mac, the number 1 dog at Marion, because all the real big boys had left and he was the last one. Anyway, while those 2 were in the hole and using heroin, somebody stole McElhaney's heroin. His mule, Alan Hawley, prisoner number 60662-080, was told to keep his mouth shut and not share heroin with anybody other than AB members in the future. Hawley's been released to the streets just a couple of years ago. Hawley featured prominently in the plot to kill an informant on the AB's list. Sahakian wanted Hawley to kill Charles Ledger, prisoner number 08845-078, who had been talking to law enforcement. He wanted Hawley to get his bones and become a member of the brand. But it would also show everybody that to squeal on the ABs is a fatal disease. But McElhaney had a guy who wanted to get his bones very badly, so he could become a full member of the AB. We learn about the killing from the 3 times the government put McElhaney on trial for drug pushing at Leavenworth. The murderer chosen was Gregory Story, a small-time hanger-on of the ABs. He is proud of the killing. The ABs tried to get him off by forcing inmates to say it was self-defense, but Story pleaded guilty to the killing and took his place as a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. According to Story, the murder was on the Special Housing Unit's rec yard. He said, quote, "I went out in the rec pen, and I was standing against the back wall," Story told the jury. "And I said, 'What's up?' He says, 'Nothing.' I turned around and started walking away, and he bends down. I turn around and look. He's digging in his shoe, and he comes up, and he has a shank. And I had a shank too. And I pulled my shank out, and we clashed." And the Assistant U.S. Attorney Tom Ludke says, "And your shank just happened to be a 12-inch metal rod sharpened to a point. And his shank was a toothbrush." Answer, yes. Story stabbed Ledger about a dozen times, continuing to stab him when the responding officers were in sight and could clearly see what was happening. What Sahakian and McElhaney had intended to do backfired. Rather than scare the prisoners into silence, they scared them into talking. When an inmate wants protection, they do what we call check-in. That means they tell an officer that they want to be taken into protective custody. Hawley was afraid he might have fallen out of favor with Sahakian, so he checked in. Besides, a life sentence didn't appeal to him. McElhaney's cellie thought he had seen and heard too much, so maybe he was going to get eliminated. So he checked in. Stephen Ritter also thought he might have seen too much to stay healthy, and Sahakian was making noises about him being a snitch. Hawley kept the notes. McElhaney and Sahakian had passed back and forth, their only means of communication in the hull. It showed that they both used and sold heroin. Hawley's testimony helped get McElhaney more time. If Hawley wasn't so scared, maybe he would have kept his mouth shut. But a live snitch is better than a dead full member of the ABs. He knew time was short when he got a note from Sahakian that said, quote, "You better wise up, foolio. This ain't time for your goofy-ass behavior. D." Unquote. He said in court that warning didn't matter anymore because he knew Sahakian was pissed off at him. He thought he'd be the next corpse to be taken out of the special housing. All this detail came out during the 3 trials of McElhaney. The first one was a hung jury when a female juror holdout fell in love with the charismatic McElhaney. The second was overturned on appeal because of a defective jury instruction, but the third stuck, adding 30 years to his sentence. Now, after all this dealing of drugs and killing to protect the income stream, you'd think that Sahakian would be making a killing, so to speak. Perhaps not. He seems to get to sit in his cell stoned on free heroin as a benefit. In 1995, he was found to have gotten a $105 money order as his cut of the drug distribution profits. Hell, I could run a lemonade stand and make $105 in a month and, not have to kill half the people Sahakian did. Then there was Sahakian's part in the plot to carry out the hit paid for by the Dapper Don John Gotti, prisoner number 18261-053. The ABs were paid something between $40,000 and $400,000. The amount's a little unclear, to kill Walter Johnson, prisoner number 43083-066. Gotti wanted Johnson killed because he reportedly called him the N-word and got his ass kicked. Gotti did get his butt handed to him. I saw Johnson do it. McElhaney ordered Stephen Ritter to do the killing. You may recall a few minutes ago, I told you about how Ritter turned snitch and checked in when he thought the ABs were getting a little quick to kill people like him. In this case, Sahakian was unable to get to Johnson. I have another video about Johnson and how he went to prison for killing a police officer in D.C. When Gotti wanted him killed, he was in prison for bank robbery. He was only free for a month when he killed the cop. Michael Patrick McElhaney told Aryan Brotherhood associate Dewey Lee, prisoner number 01371-196, that Lee was to murder Walter Johnson if given the opportunity because Gotti would pay to have Johnson murdered. This same Dewey Lee and Raymond O'Shelley, prisoner number 44776-066, was ordered to kill Wayne Alton, prisoner number 40257-019, by McElhaney and Sahakian. Alton was to be killed because he was black. I seem to recall that killing somebody for being black is a hate crime and has an enhanced punishment. Just wondering why this was not applied to the butchers of the Aryan Brotherhood. To tell you the truth, I could go on with all the murders, plots to murders, people had gotten in the way of the Aryan Brotherhood that Sahakian was involved with. I think it would be best if I covered those other murders and assaults and attempted murders by telling you about the people with the actual blood on their hands in other videos. If I did it all here, about the involvement of this one guy, we'd be here all night. Suffice it to say, he should not be getting out in 7 years. But who am I to judge? The system says he is reformed. paid his debt to society and should be released. Yeah, sure. If you believe that, I have some beachfront property in Arizona you might want to buy, or perhaps, I could give you a really good deal on the Golden Gate Bridge. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And would it kill you to subscribe?